The diplomatic chamber of the Valkyrie cruiser hummed with its usual pale luminescence. Commander Zethrin's membrane-covered eyes observed the human shuttle docking with clinical precision. Everything had been prepared for this first contact contingency protocols. Translation matrices, even atmospheric adjustments to accommodate the peculiar oxygen-nitrogen breathers from the third planet. "The human has arrived," his communications officer chirped, mandibles clicking nervously. "Single occupant. No weapons detected." Zethrin's thorax swelled with satisfaction. Finally, after months of observation, they would meet one of Earth's representatives. The humans had been carefully monitored since their crude radio transmissions first caught the collective's attention. They seemed fragile, short-lived, prone to violence, but manageable. The collective had assimilated thousands of species. One more would hardly matter. The airlock hissed open. She stepped through quietly. Susan Chen moved with the measured grace of someone who had spent too many hours in zero-gravity stations. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the standard blue jumpsuit of Earth's fledgling space program. Nothing remarkable. Nothing threatening. She carried a simple datapad and smiled politely at the assembled Valkyrie delegation. "Greetings," she said, her translator device rendering the words into harmonic frequencies the aliens could understand. "I'm Susan Chen, representing the United Earth Council. Thank you for this opportunity." Zethrin studied her with all four eyes. Soft skin. No natural armor. No venomous glands or acidic secretions. No psionic signature. She stood barely taller than a Valkyrie juvenile, and her skeletal structure suggested she could be easily broken. The commander relaxed his combat reflexes. "Welcome, human Susan Chen," he responded, his translator crackling. "We are honored to formally acknowledge your species. Please, join us at the negotiation platform." Susan nodded and followed the aliens deeper into the chamber. Evan Rodriguez, listening from the shuttle, adjusted his headset. "Readings are normal, Susan. No hostile signatures. You're clear." Back on the shuttle, Evan watched the biometric feeds with practiced attention. Heart rate. Steady. Stress markers. Minimal. Susan had done this 100 times in simulations. But this was the real thing, humanity's first diplomatic contact with an interstellar civilization. Everything depended on the next few minutes. 10 seconds. That's all it took. Susan sat across from Zethrin, her posture relaxed but attentive. The Valkyrie commander began outlining terms, standard incorporation protocols, resource-sharing agreements. The usual framework for integrating a new species into the collective sphere. Susan listened, occasionally nodding. Then she asked a question. "Commander, before we proceed, may I ask about the Terhallans?" The chamber went silent. Every Valkyrie present froze, their chromatic skin flickering through shades of distress. Zethrin's secondary hearts accelerated. "How?" he began, his translator struggling with his sudden dissonance. "How do you know that name?" Susan's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes, something ancient and predatory. "We've done our research. The Terhallans were the species that occupied this region before you arrived. Your records say they voluntarily integrated 73 years ago. But we found their distress beacons. We decoded their final transmissions." She leaned forward slightly. Just slightly. They were exterminated. Evan's voice crackled in Susan's earpiece. Vital signs spiking across the board on the Valkyrie. "Susan, whatever you're doing, it's working." Zethrin's combat implants activated instinctively, flooding his system with combat stimulants. This small, fragile creature had just accused the collective of genocide, and worse, she had evidence. His tactical mind raced. How had they penetrated collective intelligence networks? Humans had barely achieved faster than light travel. They should have been ignorant. Isolated. Easy prey. "You misunderstand," Zethrin hissed, his translator barely keeping up. "The Terhallans were murdered," Susan interrupted quietly. "Along with the Kreshnai, The Yultari, the Brendok. Should I continue? We've identified 47 extinct species in your collective's expansion path. That's not diplomacy, Commander. That's conquest. The monster revealed itself not in fangs or claws, but in knowledge, in preparation, in the cold, calculating intelligence behind those soft human eyes. Zethran's training took over. He signaled his guards, who raised their plasma weapons. You are not leaving this chamber, human. Your species will be. Susan pressed a button on her datapad. Evan now. The Velkari cruiser's systems screamed warnings. Dozens of objects had just appeared on scanners, human warships, decloaked at point-blank range. Ships that shouldn't exist, technology that was supposed to be centuries beyond human capability. Evan's voice echoed through the chamber's communication system, calm and professional. Velkari vessel. You have 15 seconds to stand down and release our diplomat. The weapons currently locked onto your reactor core are not a negotiation. Susan stood slowly, her movements still quiet, still controlled. You see, Commander, humans have a particular skill. We're very good at learning from our mistakes and even better at learning from yours. We've been watching you watch us. We decoded your surveillance. We studied every species you've destroyed, and we learned exactly what you look for in prey. She smiled, and it was the smile of a predator acknowledging another predator. You look for the weak, the unprepared, the isolated. So we showed you exactly what you wanted. To see a primitive species, barely spacefaring, no threat at all. And while you watched Earth, you never thought to look at Mars, or Titan, or the dark side of our moon. Zethran's membranes flickered with genuine fear. What are you, human? Susan said simply. We're persistence hunters, Commander. We don't give up. We don't forget. And we absolutely do not forgive genocide. She walked toward the airlock, pausing only to deliver her final message. The collective has 48 hours to withdraw from all occupied territories and begin reparations trials. Or every ship, every station, every colony you have will learn what monsters actually look like. Susan Chen departed as quietly as she had arrived. But the Velkari would never forget the moment they realized they were no longer the apex predators of the galaxy. 10 seconds. That's all it took to change everything.